1 second, Chrissy. Yeah, I'm taking them on tape. It's a weird thing. Do you see it? It's yellow. It's like an bunnies. I'm taking it with my camera. I'm taking it with my camera. It's like an bunnies love. It's beautiful. It's big.
Blog Talk Radio.
You're tuned into the Alien Agenda, and I'm your host, Carrie, broadcasting live from Youngstown, Ohio. Tonight we have a few guests on that were eyewitnesses to the unknown UFO incident over New York City on the 13th. There were various reports about what the objects were. Could have possibly been that stops New Yorkers in their tracks to stand on street corners and stare at the sky for a few hours. So one of the most compelling pieces of footage from that incident thankfully came from, on YouTube, the username is Mayan 88, and his name is Humo. And he's on the show tonight. He's waiting patiently on the line. I appreciate that. And you know, I do have my own opinions regarding this incident. I've been doing nothing but watching YouTube videos of, you know, various New Yorkers' footage from the incident, as well as what Fox News has been reporting and the other local news agencies there about what could have possibly been going on, you know, on the 13th and even into the night of the 13th. So we'll just go ahead and start off with having Humo on the air and finding out what exactly, his account of the event on the 13th was, "Hi, Humo, thank you for calling in. How are you?"
Thank you. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so glad that you called into the show. Now, just take your time and just let all of our listeners know what exactly, from start to finish, how was it that you had a camcorder with you, and how was it that, you filmed these things in the sky, and, what went on, what transpired for you that day?
Well, I had a very interesting day, a very interesting morning. I was supposed to be in the city at 9 o'clock in the morning, and everything turned out to be kind of crazy for me on that morning. And I got to the city around 1 p.m., and when I was driving, I had to stop to pick up somebody, and then when I got out of the car, I looked at the sky, and there were this huge yellow thing that was very interesting, and I was very excited to see it. And then I got my camera in my car, so I went to grab it right away. I was very excited, so I came out and I started filming it. And I also saw many spheres around the yellow object that was hovering like stationary above the buildings, even though it was like kind of high, but I saw all these spheres flying around it. And I focused on filming the big one because I didn't want to focus on the smaller ones. I knew I probably wasn't going to be able to get them with my camera. So, yeah, I filmed them for about 7 to 10 minutes or something like that. And during the period of about 1 hour or something while I was driving throughout the city, because I had to keep moving my car. I couldn't just stand on one place. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, Brett. That's what happened. And
okay, so you were driving in your car.
Yes.
Right. You're driving in your car. Could you let us know, like, what streets you were going down, approximately what time of the day it was, and, as you're filming, what streets were you going down?
Okay. When I got out of the car, it was 1 p.m., around 1 p.m., 1:30, between that time. And it was around 27th Street and between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. And that's when I started filming them. And since I had to move my car, I couldn't just stand in one place because of the area. It was very busy and stuff. Even though when I was driving, I kept filming them. As you could see, my car is moving. And I had to go onto the FDR, and that's when I lost them. But that, from the first time that I saw them until I had to go to the FDR, it took me like an hour, because I was doing some pickups. At the same time, I was working, and I couldn't stop doing that because I had somebody else in the car. And, when I got onto the FDR, I realized that I was going through the United Nations, and that was very interesting because they were very close to that area. And I just realized that people saw them on the west side, around 23rd Street and 8th Avenue, only until the night when I started seeing videos in the news. And I didn't know other people had seen them because in the area where I was and where I was filming them, nobody was looking up to the sky. It was just me, with my camera. And, I was very excited that many other people saw them, too. Yes, that's how it happened.
Okay, I'm just going over some of the information. Now, when you were traveling, at that time when you were filming, did you notice anybody standing on the street corners? Had you heard about any kind of sightings at that time? Or, was it made known at that time that other people were seeing and stopped on the corners watching the skies?
No, I actually looked down when I was filming it, and I wanted to see if some other people were looking at the sky. And it was kind of funny to me that everyone was just doing their regular everyday thing. Nobody was paying attention to the sky, and I was really pointing my camera to the sky. So I was hoping that somebody would be interested into what I was doing, and they would also look at the sky. But now everyone was so much into their own reality that nobody was really paying attention. So yeah, that was interesting. that was only me in that area, like actually looking at the sky and like and getting them on tape.
When did you find out that other people were actually looking up at the sky and seeing things? Did you hear something on the news, and then when did you decide to put your video up on YouTube?
I was talking to my girlfriend on the phone when that was happening, and it was very interesting because we were very connected actually to a lot of these beings and stuff. Like, we feel that we have a connection every time we're together. We see them and then we kind of manifest them for them to show up and stuff like that. So I called her, and then she went to the window and she told me that she was seeing them too. So I don't know, after I had to go to New Jersey because I was doing some job on that day, and then maybe like 3 hours later, she told me that it was all over the news. So when I came back into the city, and then I went to my house, I started seeing like videos on YouTube and in the news, and I saw that other people had seen them too. So it was like, I don't know, probably around 5 or 6 p.m. when I had realized that other people had seen them too.
And I understand that your girlfriend, the friend of yours, is going to be calling into the show as well to join us here. And I know you do have some history with feeling that you have a connection with otherworldly beings. And for this experience for you was a very spiritual one. And, as we talked on the phone earlier, when you were viewing the objects, when you were filming them, what did it appear to you that they looked like? Because I know in the video it looks like that they're like emitting like a gold or like a yellow. Could you tell if that was the sun reflecting or if that was coming from the object itself?
Yeah, I never thought that there were anything else than other beings from other places, other planets, other dimensions. I never thought about them being balloons, only until I started seeing videos online, and then I started seeing that people were saying that they were probably balloons or anything like that, like released from Times Square or something like that. And that was kind of funny because when I saw them, I totally felt that it was other beings and that there was a connection there from me to them, and I had seen also these spheres around them, which some of them were acting in a very intelligent manner because they were moving towards like the big ship or whatever that was, and then I saw the spheres moving towards them. So I never thought that they were any kind of balloons or anything like that. I knew that they were like spheres of light, and they were not totally physical, but I knew that they were like pure energy ships or something like that, and that's what I felt. I only realized that people were like talking about them as being balloons until I started watching the news.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to get more involved in your story and some of the other experiences. In fact, an experience you had 2 weeks prior to this incident. We're definitely going to talk about that here very shortly. What I'd like to do first, while you stay on the line here with me, is I'd just like to read a few reports that were put out online by Fox News regarding the incident. Now, 2 of the theories that came out regarding what people were seeing in the skies over New York. And mind you, this is New York City. I mean, it's like, that's, the highest population, in America, and it's like you got Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade coming up. There's, you got, New Year's Eve. People know what balloons look like when they're in the sky. Right. For this sort of an incident to happen where New Yorkers are stopped in their tracks on street corners staring at the sky for at least over an hour at objects in the sky is very strange in itself, because how often do you actually see that happen in New York where, excuse my stereotype, but New York has the labeled it, you know, you could be lying there dead on the street and people wouldn't stop to look at you, you know, and I'm sure that's not really how it is, but that's just the, you know, the point I'm trying to make here is for people to stop doing their daily activities in the busiest city in America to stare at the sky at balloons is just ridiculous because people know what balloons look like in the sky. In fact, when a balloon reaches to a certain altitude, you cannot even see it anymore, you know, with your eyes, let alone with a camcorder or a camera. So that right there, I mean, in itself speaks volumes about this event. But one of the articles that came out was that, you know, I know Fox News or one of the local stations, they were sort of hinting to, oh, well, there was like, you know, a vendor attraction in Manhattan, and they were giving away balloons, and you know, and yet they had no information on what company it was. They had no witnesses that could say, look, here's the balloon from the event. You know, it was just they were dropping these, you know, speculating opinions about, you know, where these alleged balloons could have come from. Now, the only story that held any kind of water briefly was the engagement party story that came from the elementary school. And I have viewed that video, and to our listeners who may not have seen it, you can go on YouTube, and it is NYC Kids Say UFO Was Their Balloons. That's the title of the YouTube video, and it's the principal of the school, and she's sitting there and she's talking about this wonderful engagement party they had for their teacher because she got engaged, blah blah blah, and then it goes on to talk about one of the kids' moms brought in 4 dozen balloons to celebrate. Well, I mean, I don't know anybody that brings 4 dozen balloons to a party. That's, you know, quite a bit of balloons, and she's bringing that in herself, which I'm not doubting that she brought that many balloons. But what was important about that story was the fact that the principal stated only 12 of the balloons. She specifically says only about a dozen balloons got away. Now, after reviewing the footage that I've seen on YouTube, I believe that one of the videos on YouTube does show her balloons being released and blown by the wind from the west side towards whichever area that this person is filming. Now, if you also go on YouTube and you do a search for, it's UFOs over New York City, better footage. That's the title of the video. And you can hear 3 or 4 guys in the video, and the one that's filming is filming from, it looks like maybe like a high-rise apartment. He's filming through his window. And you can see at least between 8 to 12 separate objects that really do appear to be balloons. And he's saying, oh, yeah, they're balloons. They're coming from the west side. I believe those are her balloons. I believe that what's seen in that footage are balloons because of the fact that they are all separate. They're not in a cluster like some people are trying to drop and say, oh, there was clusters and clusters of them, like it was a circus, and it wasn't. 12 balloons got away, and you can count them in the video. They're there. There's between 8 to 12 separate objects that really do appear to be balloons. And he's saying, oh, yeah, they're balloons. They're coming from the west side. I believe those are her balloons. I believe that what's seen in that footage are balloons because of the fact that they are all separate. They're not in a cluster like some people are trying to drop and say, oh, there was clusters and clusters of them, like it was a circus, and it wasn't. 12 balloons got away, and you can count them in the video. They're there. There's between 8 to 12. They're all separate. They're not in a cluster. So case in point, there's her balloons. Your video shows something completely different. Yeah. In your video, large objects that look nothing like what they're trying to pass off as balloons. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. When I saw that about the balloons, I was just so... It was just so funny because it had to have been like probably 500 balloons for that to be what I filmed. Because it was like, it was really big. And then I saw in the daily news, like when the teacher had come and said that it was her balloons, like from her body, that like they flew in the sky, and that's what it was. And and she was making fun of people, like saying that they were UFOs. And they were showing a picture of her balloons, and it was just like a dozen, that's what she said. And then they were comparing it to the picture of that somebody took of the yellow ship in the sky, and it was like so different. The size, it was completely different to what she said that they were, it was the balloons were, like the balloons that were released from her body. So it totally doesn't match the size and anything of like what people saw, because it wasn't just those yellow things in the sky that were like all together. Like I feel that there were like so many spheres like attached together, and that's why people were thinking that they were balloons. But they had to have been so many in order for them to really be that. And also, what about the other spheres that were flying like around this like big yellow thing? It wasn't balloons at all. I totally feel that, because they were also stationary. When I saw them at first, they were like still, and they were not moving at all, like for 10 minutes. So, and balloons don't do that. They don't stay just like that.
Exactly.
Like,
balloons, when balloons are released, they go up into the sky and they're taken away quickly by the wind. And what everyone was seeing in New York described on, that as they're standing there on the street corners being interviewed, by Fox News, I mean, these objects, whatever they were still there, hovering in the sky. And, you said yourself that, from what you've seen, your experience lasted over an hour. So I don't know of any balloon that can be,
Hello?
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
So
and there was one point when I was filming the video in which one of the spheres started coming towards the yellow ship, and she was moving. She was actually stationary, and then the sphere started like flying towards the other one, and then stood there for a few minutes, and you could actually see it in my video that I could catch that for a few seconds. It was really hard to get it because they were also like high in the sky, and I didn't have a tripod, so my hand was shaking, and I was trying to hold it with something under my arm, but it was far. So every time I was zooming in more into the object, it was like shaking a lot. But you could see at one point of the video how one sphere was like staying right next to the object, the yellow big object, as if it was like escorting it or something like that.
And not just the one report of silvery objects, people were reporting seeing so many different kinds of things in the sky that day, and even into the night. People were reporting, there's the footage on, again, YouTube, where you can find where people, I think it was like Google Earth or Earth View or something like that, where they had this footage of these bright lights that were going over New York City that they didn't believe was conventional air traffic. People were seeing things, it seems, throughout the day. So I'm not doubting that, the one, kid's mom accidentally let a few balloons loose. I'm not doubting that happened. What I'm saying is I think that, something else was going on in the sky that day. Definitely what is in your footage is completely different from what they're trying to say it was, because what you filmed does not look anything like balloons being released, especially when there's just a few small ones, because in the video where they're showing the teacher with, some of the balloons that were actually brought there, they're white, and they have it's like it has like engagement little silver bells on it with like silver stars, and definitely
that
not
wasn't
something
what anybody saw at all. They're
right,
just trying to
something like that.
The truth, and just like trying to cover everything up with something that is like so stupid, and trying to say that they were just like little balloons when this had to have been really big in order to like be what they're saying. But it wasn't that at all. That's not what I saw, and it's in the video. You could see it.
Absolutely.
And I even heard about this guy, who he was like also standing around 23rd and 8th, and he was saying that he saw them throughout the day, and he saw like 50 of these objects, like these spheres, and they were like flying all over, and they started fading away. And probably that when I got into the city and I got to film them, some of them stay, and that's what I got in my video.
And I'm really glad, and I know a lot of people are very grateful that you had your camcorder handy with you and you filmed something very extraordinary. What it was, we don't know. I mean, but, you know, I know in your heart you feel it is something of a higher intelligence, and all I know is when I look at that footage, it just doesn't add up to be balloons. It just doesn't. It looks completely different. Some of the reports that were coming in from eyewitnesses on Fox News. In fact, I'll just read real quickly here a Fox News report. It says, a silvery vision of a dozen balloon-like dots hovered in yesterday's clear blue sky over West 23rd Street in Manhattan, had thousands speculating the mysterious objects might be UFOs. And then it goes on to talk about how the police department and the Federal Aviation Administration started getting calls about 1:30 about the objects. And other people, and this is from FoxNews.com online, reported seeing something with yellow and blue lights around it. And at first, I guess they thought it was like could have been a weather balloon or something, but they said they had not received notification that any weather balloon launch was being done that day. One of the witnesses, that was like a Daniel Calhoun, says that in his opinion, he says common sense says that it wasn't a UFO. Common sense says it was a planar balloon. But this thing stopped everyone in the streets for 2 blocks. Any New Yorker will tell you that alone is extraordinary. Like I said, you know, in the city that launches probably more balloons than any other city, that, you know, what made the 13th of October different from any other day, that they just forgot what balloons looked like in the sky or something? I wish I could have been there that day to see it, you know, everybody's reaction in person. It was caught on tape by someone, and it is up on YouTube. However, what Humo filmed is completely different, and I don't even know what to make of his footage. All I know is that I'm not completely sold on this theory that those are balloons. I don't believe that those are what they're trying to pass off as, oh, sorry, it was our balloons from our party, and, you know, a cluster of them got released. Well, no, it was between 8 to 12 small balloons that were released independently of each other that rose very quickly into the atmosphere, and you can see that in the footage. And they're spreading out and they're going away, and you can tell. And I think that's why people, you know, in my opinion, stopped and looked, because we've seen balloons in the sky enough times to know what balloons do when they're in the sky. You know, the wind takes them. They rise in altitude very quickly, and I'm getting the feeling that what everyone was seeing in New York was something that they just couldn't quite put their finger on, and they just didn't know what they were looking at, and it was something different. And I think that's why they stopped. It was different from what they, you know, normally would be seeing if it was balloons. Humo, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say that at some point, and you could see this in the video, and Peter, he was saying that he wasn't seeing any helicopters or anything, but at some point in my video, you could see that there is I'm filming, and there is a helicopter, an NYPD helicopter flew right above me and below one of the spheres, and I was comparing, like, you know, the distance from where I was to the helicopter and the helicopter to the sphere, and if you could, like, compare and the video could be analyzed, you could see that the sphere probably was almost the same size as the helicopter compared to the distance from, you know, where I was on the helicopter. So that's one of the things that also it's not, you know, it doesn't match with, like, people saying that they were balloons or anything like that. And I think some people also are just afraid to face the truth, and people hide behind these stories and stuff like that. And people, like, should really start thinking by themselves and feeling with their heart, you know, like what this could really be, not just like put it in in their little reality and think that this is just something so normal and something that is very familiar to us. But people should really start feeling that probably, and this is something very probable. We're not alone in the universe, and these beings are probably like really here, and they want to contact humanity. And maybe people should start getting ready for this, because I think it's going to happen very soon. And as you could see, like the numerous sightings like have been taking off like recently. Like there have been so many sightings throughout the whole planet, and everyone's talking about it. The UN, I think they've been talking about like possible contact, and they're talking about like extraterrestrial bacteria, life outside of our planet, and they don't talk like directly about like having contact with an extraterrestrial intelligent life beings, but it's just, I think all this is happening just in preparation for what is coming, and people having to have their mind open to take these beings into our consciousness and into our reality, and just be prepared, because I think something amazing is about to happen in our reality, and everything is about to transform.
So what do you think it was that you both were seeing then? Do you think that they were ships? Do you think that they were organic beings? What do you think? What do you feel it was you saw?
Well, I feel that the one that the yellow object that was really big, a lot of these beings have been seen in Mexico a lot, and this is the first time that I actually see one of these ships or objects like being seen in North America. But I know that they're being seen all the time in Mexico, and they call them like biological entities, like organic entities. So I feel that they could be ships that are alive, and they have like they could have consciousness and everything, and they could be conscious, and they could just be something so different to what we're used to believe a craft could be. It doesn't necessarily have to be something mechanic or, something that is solid. It could just be like a pure energy, organic being that could also, have beings inside or spheres, because they could be like so different from us. And so I think that these beings that were like hovering over New York City were this kind of craft, and also the spheres, what other people call orbs. I think they were also like energy craft ships. I remember that it was in the beginning I saw one of these, the yellow object that was like a really big one. But then I remember when I was going up to the FDR, another one came above the buildings, and I felt, and I thought, oh, maybe this is like chasing me or something. But of course, like I just kept filming it, like as you could see in the video, at the end of the video, like this object kind of started flying towards the east side, and that's when I could film the other sphere right next to it. So that was the last one I saw when I was on the east side of the city, and it's very interesting what Peter was saying, because he says that only people who were on 23rd and 8th could see them, but I was actually on the east side of the city, and I could see them from there too. And but I really didn't see anybody else looking up at the sky, and I didn't really see anybody else that were seeing what I was filming. So yeah, but that was the last time when I saw them, when I went all the way up to the east side of the city.
Your video is just really probably one of the most compelling pieces of evidence as to what happened that day, because, in conjunction with the story that tried to, sort of smoke screen, what happened that day, the balloon story from the school, your footage, I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what that is that you filmed. I know it wasn't balloons. It wasn't the balloons that they tried to say came from that engagement party. But lucky for us that you did have your camcorder with you that day.
Yeah.
And you were able to. Yeah, definitely. And keep it with you because, I mean, you never know when you might have another sight.
I do always keep it with me because I know we're always like seeing these orbs, beings. We usually like practice a lot of meditation, and with astral we always kind of like send them messages and telepathically kind of connect with them, and yeah, so we usually like kind of manifest these things around us, and that's what happened with us. 2 weeks prior to deciding, we were in Prospect Park, and as I was telling you before, this fleet of like 7 orbs came around us, and just on that day, like in the period of probably like 1 or 2 hours, we saw 20 of these orbs, and then right after that, maybe half an hour after that, a black helicopter came, and it was flying around us above in the sky, like right above us, and around the park, and it was just like flying around us like for 15 minutes, and we were very, I don't know, just thinking that this is really weird. And it had like a big camera thing in the front outside of the helicopter, and we were just probably thinking that it had to do with the sighting that we had just had.
Well, I tell you what, I really appreciate you guys calling into the show tonight and giving the audience and myself an account of what happened during the event in New York City on the 13th. We're probably going to wrap up the show early tonight. Did either of you have any final comments that you wanted to make or statements, about anything before we wrap up the show?
Just go ahead.
You go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just for everyone to keep their eyes open and their hearts open, because from what the NORAD official said is that this is just step 1. So we should just be ready and not be attached to anything in this physical reality, because it could all change tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would like to say something similar. Yeah, people should probably just keep their mind more open to everything that could be out there in the universe, because most likely we're not alone, and this is something that should be basic knowledge for humanity, and people should be probably ready for some type of contact with beings from other places, planets or dimensions, because as you could see, everything is happening so fast, and it seems to be leading somewhere, and I think it's somewhere good for humanity. So people maybe need to start just preparing spiritually and in their heart to be more open to all these possible events that are probably about to take place.
Mm-hmm. Well, thankfully you had your camcorder with you that day, and I appreciate all of my guests that were on the show, Humo, Astral, and Peter, all of you for calling in and taking the time to speak with us. Be sure to call in anytime you want and keep us updated if, things start happening again. Keep the camcorder handy. And thanks so much. I appreciate you two for calling in.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Well, we had a great show tonight, and hopefully some of, people's questions got answered, in regards to what did happen in New York City over, October 13th during the day and into the night. So I don't know. I don't know, what people were seeing. I know it was enough to, stop them in their tracks. And we got a couple clips of footage, on the internet out there. So, but the whole balloon story is, it doesn't explain what was in Humo's video. It doesn't explain it for me. I don't know what it was that he filmed. I know it wasn't balloons that came from the engagement party at the school. I don't know what to say about it. Maybe somebody got some corroborating footage that will surface later on. Who knows where the news media will go with this, but like the guest said, you just have to keep your minds and your hearts open to, the possibility of other things going on out there. Don't take things at face value, and definitely just, keep investigating and comparing the footage. Comparing people's statements is how, I put together the fact that, the principal of the school is trying to say that, between 8 to 12 balloons were released, find whatever. I believe that was captured in one of the, pieces of footage that's on YouTube, but I do not believe that is what was in the footage of the guest that was on the show tonight. So just keep those camcorders handy and keep your eyes to the skies. Again, I want to thank my guests that called into the show, and also the guests in the chat, Buck Wilds, Coolie Dog, Maribel, and Sasquatch Spirit, and all of the other guests that were in. And thanks a lot, you guys. You have a great night.